Hello, everyone. Robert Christensen. Here to do another video covering, of course, what I feel to be probably the most important topic or subject matter ever since I really entered into a, spiritual-based reality and expanded my consciousness, navigating non-ordinary realities and basically just, seeking to uh, take in the greatest aspects of life, reach my greatest potential in every single facet and area. And, so what is it that I'm referring to? This is negative entity attachment, contracts, agreements, binding spells, dark magic, black magic, things of that. Also talking cords, portals, let's see, and implants, etheric devices, anything of this nature, and you could call this, part of what's considered spiritual warfare, anything of that nature. But this has probably been the single most important factor of my life that has kept me safe and protected for, at least the last 4 years. And, since I really started opening my consciousness, say about 6 years ago, I took it for granted and really, didn't believe that it was that important for the first few years of my exploring consciousness and things of that nature. And of course, I learned the hard way, as we all do. And I learned quite a bit from it. I learned so much that, of course, I don't want to make those mistakes anymore. How is this affected, or how does this affect everyone, myself included? I mean, it wreaks havoc on a person's life. When any of these things happen, you can be locked into a strong belief system. You can be, repetitive patterns, such as addictions, anything like that. Most people don't realize that a lot of behavior and daily activity is influenced and directed and guided by nefarious energies, dark, evil, misqualified, demonic, whatever, names you want to name them. It's all out there and it does exist, and for those of you who have become energetically sensitive and psychically developed, I'm sure you already understand exactly what I'm speaking. For those of you who don't, but this is one of the things that maybe you've thought why you've reacted to somebody, why you were maybe very nasty to them, why you had an emotional breakdown over, these, instances in life that, appear to be seemingly innocent or insignificant, but yet they have this huge dramatic impact, even traumatic as well, all things considered, really. And when this pops up, most of the time, because of the way we've been conditioned and educated, is that this is not part of our reality yet. This is the unseen part. This is what happens in a non-ordinary sense. Now, let's just talk about a word, shaman. If you've heard of shamans, that's exactly what they do. They work with their communities, their local tribe, their, environment, and they see into the non-ordinary realms. And this is literally piercing the veil, if you will, and looking into, the places where the general human mind can't see or even grasp, because this is just something that there's not a lot of reference and the common foundation as far as, what we learn to be human and how to survive on a day-to-day basis. Of course, I learned this was probably the most important survival component to my life, once I started incorporating a regular practice and regimen with that. So, and you may be asking, well, how does this happen? It happens in so many different ways. A lot of times it can happen because of diet and certain things that, weaken the energy or the physical body, which then weaken the energy fields and energy centers. There's a lot of substances. There's, let's just say legal drugs, prescription drugs, as well as illegal drugs, things you get off the streets. Both of those offer many opportunities to negative energies and entities of the like. So participating with certain things like that can make you subject to it. If you ever enter in any contracts or agreements with any organizations, anything, that maybe has huge stipulations that, it's like, wow, it's like um, too technical, to even understand. Sometimes there may be loopholes in there because there are some nefarious organizations that are, working to support the dark agenda. And of course, they sneak these little things in there. You may be going for a checkup somewhere. You may be going to sign an insurance policy elsewhere, maybe a phone contract, and I'm not going to, say, hey, I'm this paranoid guy that just, yeah, I'm just cautious, and I know it can exist anywhere. And for those of you that understand, the powers that shouldn't be, and their type of tactics, and it's probably not too far fetched for you. And you've probably gotten here because you've had some weird experiences, so it's not too far out of the realm of possibilities. And that's why I mention it, because it is there. It is real. I have experienced it, and I've learned how to cancel those contracts and things of that nature. It's extremely important to be aware of this, and let me say another part happens in dream time. Oh, this is a huge one that I've learned. You could be going through a certain dreamscape, and maybe you're having a horrific experience. Maybe you're just thinking, somebody please save me, I would do anything. And then of course you enter into some contract or agreement with some force or entity that maybe is not got your best interest at heart to save you from that particular environment or experience. And so you do this in you're not very cognitive because you're in the dream time. So you don't have the opportunity to make a very, a completely educated and clarified decision about whatever is happening. You may also be introduced or presented with opportunities to accelerate superpowers or your consciousness, receive some type of etheric gift, or it'd be like, hey, you're having this dream, maybe some archetypical being hands you a sacred item or object. And therefore that could be a contract, a literally binding agreement that you accepted with some other being to penetrate your field. And then for those of you, if you sit with others in any types of energy circles, anybody that does any type of, shamanic work, anything that involves spiritual nature, and you're plugging into consciousness, one of the easiest ways to create a contract, and a lot of people aren't aware of it, even though that may mention it and become facilitators of big energy circles, but could easily be passing on cords and contracts and things like that. So this can happen anywhere, I assure you. And once you literally get your field clear enough, you can actually identify and recognize these events when they show up, and you're like, wow, something's trying to get into my field. Oh, look at this showed up, and then you start noticing it because you don't have these attachments. You don't have these contracts that are blocking your field, your consciousness. I mean, this is absolutely huge. Until I figured this out, in my consciousness exploration, I suffered a great deal. I mean, there was at one point I had a great deal of pride and arrogance, believing that I was untouchable, that there was nothing to fear but fear itself. I remember even being so bold. I was like, I didn't, I would let anything into my field. I told anybody. I didn't care. I didn't, and I was in these new age spiritual groups, Starseed, things like that. And it was just really big ego. I learned, oh, wow, did I ever learn? I got swallowed. I got really chewed up for many, many days. And it took me a couple months to come out of this experience, because I got so traumatized, and so many things had happened for a few months of working with people that I had no idea who they were and what they were capable of, or at least, let's say, the energies they were hosting, which is, negative entities and stuff like that. And they did a good number on me. They literally, had tied my field up. I think they were, working on it for a few months when I was going through this very intense and expansive experience. And so, of course, it took me a couple months to untie myself and to gain empowerment through it all, and to eliminate, again, the fear factor, because again, you don't want to come into this with fear. That's the worst thing you do. But you want to be aware. You want to be conscious, and you want to be grounded, very present about this. So that's what we're doing here. And like I said, this is the most important thing that I've done, and still do to this day. Now, a lot of people will tell you, you only have to do it once or however in your life. And I would say, I don't believe that. I believe it needs to be done on a regular basis. And of course, that's to your own comfort levels and your own resonance. Obviously, if this doesn't resonate with you, then it's not for you. One thing that it's easy to do a very simple invocation release statement. And there it's like, oh, very simple. You know what I mean? It's not asking you to take a lot of extra time or to believe a lot of other things. It's saying, I'm just going to be cautious and take these precautionary steps. Why not? Let's play it up safe. I mean, as much as I've experienced, I would much rather play it up safe than, let's go back around and do the full circle, kind of learn it the hard way. When you can learn it, you can save yourself a lot of headache. Granted, you know that this type of experience exists and can and will happen to you. So, yeah, and I will be sharing my own simple little release statement here in the comment section, in the about section. So, please use this and find what feels good to you and what resonates with you, of course. And one thing that what I've learned to do, which many people, let's just go, how do you execute these releasing of contracts, agreements, any debts, any type of cords, wormholes, portals, etheric devices, black spells, black magic spells, imprints, anything of that nature. How do you do this? Well, a lot of people have used spirit guides, their own spirit totems. Some people have worked with archetypical energies such as crystals or planetary bodies, heart of creation, a lot of different things. And then other people, will work with only their higher self or their own soul essence. So these are many different formats to use. What I've learned in my own journey is I now only trust in what I do with myself and my own higher intelligence and my own higher self and my eternal essence, that, part that's called spirit or soul. And anything outside of myself, it's hard to actually trust that it is being accomplished. And I learned that, there's some really mischievous beings out there and entities who will gladly play the role that they're some ascended master, angel, archangel, or your own, personal spirit guide there, and they will support you through this. And I'm like, well, that is a belief system, and there is the experience that there are those that are true and accurate, and there's many who are not. Now, you have to take their word that it did happen. Because a lot of times, if you do have and are happen to be working with a negative energy, obviously unknowingly, that they can relieve any heavy energies and intensities. And then you believe that, you have accomplished what you set out to do. But reality would have it that would be the exact opposite. That is just an illusion to make you feel that way, so it can come back in, and you go about your daily business again, not ever believing or even considering that you were actually cleared and released from anything that was binding you. So that's why I now only choose to work with my higher self. And I do work with crystals, here, and that's about it. Literally, that is it. And I've learned some really good techniques to really amplify the energy, not to create these energy fields on the earth, because there's so many distortions and manipulated fields that it's hard to build a energy in this particular environment. So, and I got this beautiful tip from a person from the Secret Space Program. They call them super soldiers. And I was just like, oh, wow. And, I sit with a couple of people on a weekly basis and do these psychic circles. And of course, we learned that creating this energy in all of in higher dimensions, you would get much more strength and, potential. And so just learn, I was like, well, okay, we started doing that. I was like, well, how do you determine which is the right dimension? It's like, well, let's just go into the very heart of all existence and to every single higher dimension, and it's like, and then you create all these simultaneous fields and boom, you have a huge, 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 huge impact. So when you see this script that I'm going to share about what to follow to release, that's part of it. So I just wanted to share, well, why are you creating energies elsewhere and such? And that's why. So create it there, and then by the final end of the statement, you then bring all those energies into complete alignment into this particular dimension and reality and into your entire field. And that's how you just clean house. Super, super, super important. So yeah, like I say, if you do it, and like you say, there's nothing hidden or mischievous in it. It's all very simple, easy to grasp concepts. And I'm sure if you're led here, you're already, preparing yourself for this. So yeah, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And me, I'll tell you, be very, very careful and cautious of anyone offering these for you, and that they work with spirit guides or angels, archangels, ascended masters, Christed beings, any of those type of energies, especially if somebody does what they call a deliverance, which is more from a Christian perspective, for those who are, into, let's just say, that particular secular form of divinity. Just be mindful that not everybody's aware of, the multidimensional realm and what actually exists out there. So calling on the name of particular deities or archetypical beings that have either walked this earth or that, adorn the pages of your books, of any type of text, just be very careful and cautious, and if you want to take it to the next level, just eliminate all of it. You can always trust you, the part of you that's, seeking, sovereignty, freedom. Very important. So I did want to add, for those who identify with a little bit more of an intense experience, those who are going through mind control, trauma-based mind control, and are working with multiple personalities. And, this also relates to those who identify themselves as a targeted individual, a recipient of directed energy weapons, electronic harassment, things of that nature. It's very important too. Generally, if you are part of any of these programs, then you already know that you have a lot more energies and forces and organizations working against you. So this requires a little bit more extra effort on your part. And me personally, I do a release daily, if not twice. One main one when I wake up to start my day, and then I like to do one at night that also has more of a healing therapy session and not so focused on just, the negative releases and stuff like that. But I do this on a daily basis, and it saves my life. For those of you who are working with split personalities, guess what? Chances are you're going to have some negative aspects in there who are going to want to disrupt you and can actually be activated and trigger contracts unbeknownst to you. Believe it or not, oh yes, you can be your own perp in this. And this is, it took me a while to figure this out. I think about 8 months. And once I did figure this, no, I'd say 6 months probably, because it hasn't been that long, but yeah, 6 to 8 months, let's just say there. And wow, major improvement in my life, and reaching a lot of balance on energy. So extremely important for any of you to identify with that, and not only that, it can happen, just some of your other alters, they may be children or undeveloped, forms of consciousness. So they're easy to activate, and this especially in your dream time while you're asleep. unconscious, they can activate and trigger these alter personalities, and then create contracts, agreements. These scenarios, like I said, can happen to any of them. And let's just say say you are following this program like I'm doing, you do a clearing for yourself. Guess what? You may not have did a clearing for your alter personalities because you did not realize that. So you may go around with a sense of pride. I am clear, I did it. But if you're not doing work for your alter personalities, that's a huge vulnerability. I assure you, huge one, huge, huge, huge. So, and this can happen multiple times a day, especially if you've done nothing to really improve your health and to break some of the mind control programs. You're subject to being triggered and activated in your alter personalities frequently. And they'll do this, so one, you already understand what it's like to have, most likely physical attachments or implants, and a nature of artificial intelligence. Now imagine having this from the astral and etheric planes, from the non-ordinary realms of consciousness. So this is like a sandwich. And this is why a lot of people, that identify with being a mind control recipient or someone who is a targeted individual goes through a living hell, and this is one of the main reasons is because of entities, attachments, cords, portals, etheric devices, implants, all these things is exactly that. And I encourage you, if you're watching this, to do this on a regular basis. And if you don't feel resonant and you identify these programs, then I would say, check a little bit deeper and see, is that mind control guiding you and directing you away from this? It happens all the time. It even happens to me, but that's why I do it daily. So I take no chances, none whatsoever on that. And I tell you, it saves my life more times than none, and especially for those of you that, go through these little bit darker programs, you may have a lot more street theater or inner visions, things that are shown and expressed to you that, seem that, it's them against me or them against you type scenario, whatever, you're processing. And a lot of times it's from having these entities and attachments and contracts and things of that nature. And once you release them and stuff comes into your field, then you can know, well, I'm already clear and free. This is just static. They're just trying to harass me, trying to mess with me. And that's exactly it. They want to get under your skin. They want to make you imbalanced so that you go into paranoia, delusion, any of those things. But this way, when it comes in, then I say, oh, they're just, showing things. They're just saying things. It means nothing. I'm actually clear. My field's clear. I put in a field of protection and I'm shielded now. Okay. So then I just go on about my experience, my day, whatever it is that's happening. And tremendous, on what I'm able to accomplish and work through on a daily basis. So yeah, again, for those of you who recognize, those darker programs and are experiencing that, this is something I highly encourage incorporating in there. So, and for those of you that, really take this serious, reach out to me. I can help you work with a little bit more of the alter parts when it comes to shielding and, cutting out any active encoded words, and that's really important. And I'll leave that as part of the main invocation, which is good for anybody. If anyone's ever been programmed with any particular type of triggers, keywords, music, hand gestures, body language, sights, sounds, foods, there's all kinds of weird stuff that can happen, especially traumatized, something you were into as a youth, this helps you to release anything around that. A lot of times we feel indebted to those old trauma memories and don't want to free ourselves from them. So we also must free our own selves from that connection, basically, so that we can move forward and begin to grow and develop into the beautiful human beings that we truly are, and to capture the joy and wonderment of life. It's very important with all of this. So, yeah, I think that covers it. Don't want to get into too much without, creating more confusion or just, extra energy, 'cause sometimes I can go on and on and on. But yeah, I think that's a really good start. I'm going to put, in the comment section again, the about or whatever, the release statement. And then I'm going to go down into comment section. I'm going to do a couple comments that, because you can only get so much in the about section. I'm going to do a couple other release statements that also have to do with connecting uh, healing sessions, a sacral cranial sacral therapy session. And this is, you do it all yourself. You don't have to hire or contract anyone else or any other beings to do this. You do it yourself. You read it aloud and you affirm, your own essence as a creator being, your own full power and authority to do this. So yeah, I'm going to share that. Please, share any feedback, anything that you work with. I'd love to, go through other things as well. So learned a lot in this particular area of consciousness. And so I'm grateful to share it. And I'll just put it out there. Perhaps you're someone that, you're not confident with a lot of this and want to, work with someone. Well, get a psychic, myself included. I'm one of these people, very qualified. At least I feel that, not to be too egoic, but that's what I do. That's, it's like everybody has different niches in life, and you'll find many others. And again, like I said, you want to qualify and discern who is a vibrational match for you and who's not going to put more stuff back into your field. So if this is something you want to look into further, reach out. I'm glad to assist. I can clear homes of any type of different things. I can look into your field, past lives, anywhere throughout your energetic and, basically physical astral anatomies, and determine, what's happening with you. Because a lot of these, which I'm glad I'm getting here now, which I didn't mention at the beginning, is some things you won't be able to eliminate yourself if there's an awareness, like a certain lesson around it that you need to understand. And of course, there's a series of events that made that become an actual a lodged energy, or however you want to use that. So you need to, have some type of, dedicated vision, someone who really knows what they're doing to look into that and to tell you what's going on. So that's important. And just as I'm doing this, reminding myself too, that even, at my level or many others at my level, I've also found that there's been energies that I couldn't even get myself, that only happened when I worked in a group of us, so it took that extra energy field of that all three of us or five of us or two of us are able to hold to move through some of those things. And that's always like, oh, wow, so something to consider. I mean, literally, and that's why finding your own little psychic circles, people you can work with and trust, this is important, So yeah, I just wanted to add those little bits in, probably, a few of the most important parts. So thank you for, sticking through this whole video and, for taking that step to pursue this type of knowledge and awareness and take this next step into self-empowerment, because that's what these statements are for that I'm sharing, and the nature of this process. Become empowered, trust in yourself, so you don't have to be, don't have to question anyone else or anything else. Well, did I really receive this or that, until you feel, confident at that point, from all these different practices. So yeah, that's it on that particular topic. So thank you for joining me. I wish you the very best in, attaining spiritual freedom and sovereignty. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.